Hello, YouTube. Yeah, we're only going to be on for a minute. I'll give
Now at LL Bean, get 20% off your order. Find gifts with thousands of 5-star reviews. Like our.
Don't want to talk about that. I'll be on for a very short period of time. I'm going to give you a 30-second intro. Let's do that. It's almost 30 seconds. All right. All right. That's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Come here. So how are you? Good. Thanks for showing up on this late night stream for the Bill Miss Show. Yes. Good night, Robert Wallace. Good night. Joe Mama. Yeah, you're so sweet. You're so nice. You're so nice. And it's nice when you are nice. Well, thanks for being here. Robert Wallace, first one in the chat tonight. Normally would be deplatformed by Christy Kuhn, KK. Let me just say this. I don't know everything that's going on with KK, but let's keep her firmly planted in our prayers and put her at the forefront. Why? Because we're human. We're only human. Flesh and blood of man. Let's do that. So when you get on your knees, maybe some of you don't, but I do. And that's not saying anything, but listen, put our people in your prayers, okay? Lay it out there. Because where the heart goes, we got to look out for each other. All of us, not just in this chat, not just in this world, in the world that we live in with family, friends, I guess I was going to say parents, but yeah, I mean, it matters. It matters. And there is power in prayer. I do believe that. So without being on a soapbox, I want to ask you a couple questions before we get to anything. I did watch Robert Wallace's, he did a couple YouTube, videos, and he was using this bow technique, and he was, no, I've only ever seen it on Naked and Afraid. Okay. I've heard of bow technique. I've heard of all this, but I saw it on Naked and Afraid. And this guy just so happened to think that he knew how to create a bow and do bow technique. And the woman that he was on Naked and Afraid with had this nice, long, beautiful hair. Give me nice, long, beautiful hair. And he was like, if I can take your hair and I can like take it off, I can wow, and I can make a bow out of it. And I'm like looking at that like, what? Okay. You've got my interest piqued. Let's see you make a fire out of this rubbery stick that he, and it looked like he made the bow, and he had this piece of wood. It was like a branch. It was like he cut a piece of, and he didn't cut it because he didn't have a knife, but he snapped this piece of branch off and put it here and put this bow on. So there's all the bark and all that shit on this thing. And he was like, zoot, 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 snap. Like her hair, And this guy read how to make a bow and decided that he would go on Naked and Afraid for 30 days and decide that he knew how to make a bow. I'm going to tell you something. I did not honestly realize how perfectly the gods need to be in your favor in order to create a fire using the bow. Now, that being said, Robert Wallace, you did an outstanding job, dude. But you had the right equipment, you had the right wood. I guess that falls under equipment, whatever. But it was the perfect surrounding for you to create the bow fire. And I get that, man. I get it. The lesson I learned out of watching you do this is that you need to have this equipment like in advance. Could you possibly make this fire bow and create a fire with somebody's long hair as the binding and the twine? Yes, you could. It would make more sense to me that you knew how to read the different types of trees and you could strip off like these, how they make like cots and they make hammocks and all of this. Like in third world countries, they know how to do this stuff. They know how to do it. And yes, potentially, if a woman that's not just classified to a woman, because it could be a dude, but if you're using the right awesome conditioners and all that, and your hair was like super strong, I suppose if you knew what you're doing, you could potentially maybe make a fire. But these people were naked and afraid, and this poor woman lost a few locks of her hair. And coincidentally, there was no fire to be had. This dude just jangied it up. And I thought, wow, you know what? I understand the theory. I think if, truth be told, I think if I had to make a fire, I think the movie Castaway showed us maybe the best way to make a fire. I liked, they showed him trying to, and he was like, yeah, and he like grabbed the soccer ball, yeah, and he like whipped it, and that's how he came up with what was it? Spalding? Was that was that the name he gave the soccer ball? And then he like put the eyes on it, and was it Spalding? I think it was. I'm probably wrong, but anyway, he ditched that effort of doing it like that. Wilson. Yes, Wilson. Spalding. No, that doesn't work. Wilson. Wilson. I'm sorry, Wilson. Okay, it's all coming back to me. Yes, it's Wilson. I got it. I didn't even get it close because I was going to go like Nike. I knew it wasn't Nike. It was some obscure, weird name. Wilson. That's what it was. I'm sorry, Wilson. I felt so bad. You know what? He did a really good job in that movie because when he was apologizing to the soccer ball, man, I felt like he was apologizing to his friend and and was legit tore up. But in order for him to be sane by the end of that movie, where he got to meet his fiance, he couldn't be carrying that luggage around like, I'm so glad to be off the island. I'm so glad to see you. I could have never done it without you. And my soccer ball. Wilson. Yeah, that's my blood. Yeah, I made little eyes. Yes, that's my soccer ball. Yeah. So I don't quite know why I went down that road, but I did. So there's that. But what I was saying is to that movie, when he ditched that whole effort and then he started taking that thing and he was like, meh, meh. It was funny too, because he was like, meh, and he looks up and he sees it and he's like, What's up, soccer ball? And he's just rubbing it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this is after he's got his shit all bandaged up as best he can because he's like doing this forever. Yeah. He created an ember, and that made sense to me. That makes sense to me that you can put a lot more ass into it when you're, you know, running it back and forth. You got two arms, and I get the bow, man. I mean, I get that, dude, with the skateboard wheel with the bearing in it and everything. I get that. I get why that works, and that if you had that in your possession and you needed to make a fire, I get that. But the other part was with the wood, that made more sense to me. But I could see how that would work. But on Naked and Afraid, it didn't work. They had no fire. They were naked. They were afraid. And I'm not sure that actually, I think in that episode, I think he gave up after like the 5th or 6th day. And I think that chick, I think she toughed it out. Actually, I don't think she made it, but I think she made it to like the 25th or 26th day. It was crazy. It was nuts. Anyway, that's aside. Let me check the Q drops. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about tonight, but there is one thing I do want to talk about specifically, which I came on to go live to talk to you about one thing specifically, and I will get to that. So no new Q drops. That's fine. That's good. Q's letting us marinate on it, and that's all right. But what do you guys think of the recount that's now surfaced? Over 2 days out of Florida, they want to call a recount and say that all of these magical ballots have resurfaced out of Broward County, Florida. If Broward County sounds familiar to you, well, there's probably good reason. And the number one reason would be that there was a shooting there earlier this year. It was in it was the Parkland shooting, in which a certain sheriff of that county, I heard it put this way and I liked it, so I don't want to say it, but if you know where the city of Jerusalem is located and you know what country that is, which was made in like 1947. So in Jesus, back 2,000 years ago, kind of used to walk across this country. If you know what that country's called, then you know the last name of the sheriff of Broward County, and that name should ring a bell. But there's a lot of other things beyond that that seem to just be wonky out of that county a lot. Namely, that's where so that's where that sheriff resides from. That's the county where the Parkland shooting happened this year. That is where Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who, if you don't know anything about her, look her up. What a piece of work that one is. But that's where she lives in that county. And it's predominantly Democrat in that county. So is it any wonder that now, after 2 days, they're still counting ballots? They've already conceded the governorship to Ron DeSantis, and Rick Scott has won the senator election. And now Broward County, just by itself, there's one other county next to it, but the majority of this relies on Broward County, where all this crap and just really, there's a big black, gray, whatever cloud over this county for some very suspect happenings. Okay. in not only the last year, but 2 years. It's just been it's like, ugh, ick. Why is this happening in this county? So and they don't have the ballots counted completely. They are claiming mysteriously that, "Oh, we've found all these additional ballots that weren't counted." Now, at the time, Rick Scott had a 70,000 vote lead, for the senator, to be the senator of Florida, in addition to Marco Rubio. It's just that his district wasn't timed to vote. So Rubio's still in, but Rick Scott, who was the former governor of Florida, is running to be the senator and won it by 70,000 votes. And they come out early today, I think, and said, "Hey, we found all these extra votes and we're counting them. We're counting them." Now, you guys, all of these votes are supposed to be counted within 30 minutes of the polls closing. You guys all voted. You take your sheet, whoosh, you put it in the thing, zip, zip. It's like it counted. All right. Okay, no problem. They're still counting votes. They're claiming all of these magically appearing votes just appeared, and they're still counting the county of Broward. Supposedly, they found 90,000 uncounted votes in Broward County. There's been full investigations that have been launched against this, full investigations. So this is going to play out. But do you remember the year 2000 when Gore and Bush went at it, and the hanging chads and all that was going on? Listen, the deep state has got their back against the wall. They are trying. They know that because they lost the Senate, they didn't care about the House. We've talked about that. But they know, since they lost the Senate, that they've got to really, truthfully try every single solitary thing they can put out to win that state or any position. So they're not just doing it there. They're talking about doing a recount in Georgia. This is where the BS is in full play for the House and the Senate. And it doesn't even matter about the House. Republicans lost the House. Okay, that's fine. But as we stated the other night, it didn't matter. They want the Senate. And now dirty pool is in play. Dirty pool. And they're magically having these 90,000 additional votes that are coming to surface out of Broward County. There's more to Broward County than what I've spoke about, but I don't want to dilute the message here by going into the numerous specifics beyond that. Supposedly, with his tens of thousands of vote victory that Rick Scott had for the Senate majority, for to be the Senate leader, not leader, but to be the representative of Florida, the second one of the Senate, had a 70,000 vote win. And since they found these other ones in Broward County, that has been dwindled down to like 15,000 votes. So they have effectively, in my opinion, recreated 55,000 Democrat votes. And how dumb is it that they create that difference of margin he wins by 70,000, and now since they count these votes, it's like 55,000, 55, 65, 70. So a 15,000 vote difference. Does that mean that out of those 55,000 votes they've recounted, not one, not 100, not 1,000, not 10,000 people voted Republican? This whole thing reeks. It smells to high heaven. And because of this, now Andrew Gillum is about to put on the table a recount against Rick Santorum after he conceded, which is not bindable. It's not something that's you can't bring that to the court of law and say, well, he conceded the state. No, they'll say he conceded it based on the information we had. However, given in light of all of these additional votes that were not counted out of Broward County, we retract our concession and we demand a recount. You guys, this whole thing stinks to high heaven. This is the year 2000 all over again, for better, for worse. I voted for Gore back then. I told you, I've voted Democrat in every single election except the last one and Bush's second term. Bush Jr. I'm going to smoke him out. That guy, the dodo jackass bird, the dodo ass. George Jr. But this smells, but I think enough people are awake. I think there's enough people that are on top of this and maybe even saw this coming. They're not going to let them steal the gubernatorial race for governor, and they're not going to let them steal the Senate position either. But it just floors me that they got the balls to try. They got the stones, man, to jump in there and try to steal it. And not only that, it's leaking into its northern neighbor of Georgia, where Abrams, who Oprah endorsed openly and came out in all this. And it was like he won like 51.8 to 48.2 or something. I don't know what it was. It wasn't. But it was like over 3% of the state. This guy had won. And now they're talking about a recount on the ballots there. First of all, you're not within your legal reason to demand a recount unless it's less than a 1% or actually maybe it's a 0.5%. I'm not quite sure. But it's within 1% to 0.5% or something that there even has to be a discrepancy for you to demand it. So what does that mean? It means that are they going to come out with all these? If they're bringing up the state and saying that they want a recount or something, are they going to magically find all these additional ballots? I'm sorry, that's not how the sheep that watch mainstream media can eat and gobble this up, and they can gobble this up and say, okay, yeah, if there's got to be a recount, there's got to be a recount. You guys, we're in the 21st century. I mean, how is this shit not decided within 10 minutes of the polls closing? When I cast my vote, I went over to the machine, put it in, zoot, no problem. Your vote was cast. Great. That's electrical. We are not pulling votes out of a ballot box. We are not sitting here. And I tell you for a fact, the guy that voted just before me when I went to vote had put his slip in, zoot, and it spit it back out, and it had a discrepancy on it. Now, I don't know if that's he didn't fill all his little circles in. I don't know. But it was basically telling him, you have to go back and fix whatever it is. So when you want to know what accuracy is, these machines are accurate. What you cannot account for are, this big Ryder truck of missing ballots just showed up, and some bitch, 95% of them are Democrat votes. Crazy. Weird. Let's count them up. No effing way, you guys. So it is our duty, if this does not get squashed in the next day, it is our duty to stand up. And I don't know if we call our governor, our congressman, or the White House directly and say, this shit ends. This is not palatable. It's not. It's nothing that's going to sit easy with me. I'm watching this very closely. So that's the newest drama. There's no new Q drops, but I wanted to bring you this piece of information had you not known about it. And just understand that when you wake up tomorrow, everything on the MSM is going to be revolving around the Florida gubernatorial race with Andrew Gillum and Rick Scott, or Ron DeSantis, and also feeding over into Rick Scott for the senator, and then also maybe feeding into Georgia, which may cause this ripple effect where Beto, the Irish wannabe Latino, it could all spill over into all this. But one thing I can say is that the reason that this is happening is that DC is in a panic. They are. It wears on my nerves, you guys. It does, because I go, one more thing. Got to deal with this now. Why can't it ever just be easy? It can't. You know what? In the grand scheme of things, we're taking back our country. Did we think it was going to be this easy? No, it's not going to be. We need to fight. We need to stand behind the individuals that are taking back our country. This is not a video game. We are not programmed. We have to recalibrate the mind. Your mind, my mind. We have to recalibrate ourselves and say, you know what? No matter what these sons of bitches try to throw our way, we're in it, man. We are in it up to our neck for the long haul. And we're not going to let them pull this shit. We're not. No matter what they think they want to do, they are simply operating within the boundaries of what they feel they can get away with. And that ends. It might not end tomorrow. It might take a week or two to sort this out, but stay diligent, stay strong, be patriots. We're not going to let them pull this shit out from under us. There's no way. We're not losers. And we are not going to lose. I ain't losing. No way. I'm way too vested in this. Emotionally, I am vested in this. Spiritually, I am vested in this. And I haven't met, but I've gained some really awesome friends. And a lot of you are those. But you know what? Country first. Let's make sure we don't let ourselves get beat up by this. Let's see this through. It's going to be in the history books. You are a part of history, whether you like it or not. Are you in the part of history that says, well, we let it go? Or the other side that says, nah, we smelled their bullshit a mile away. We saw it. We're not letting them get away with it. That's the side of history I'm going to be on. So I invite you to be on that side too, which I think anybody that watches me, I think, is on that side. But it's important to share the message, send the message, let people know. Let them know when you hear somebody around the water cooler tomorrow at work, let them know, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all bullshit. There's no reason these votes shouldn't be counted. And there really is not any reason that these votes should not be counted. And this whole thing is put to bed, and we're on to our next let's attack Trump story. because there's no shortage on those. That train is never late and it will never be late. We have to put our foot down and say we've had enough. And I have had enough because I'm ready for this like you guys are. I am I, I'm ready. I'm not a fortune teller, so my emotions are heavily invested in this just like every one of you. And I get tired like you guys and I'm emotionally drained like you guys, man, and I got to go through life like you guys. But man, I've had it myself. But there's no way I will let whatever fatigue that I feel get in the way of letting these Luciferian sons of bitches that are kidnapping, raping, and killing in some instances, probably a lot more than we realize, of children, of kids. I won't stand by, and you shouldn't either. So that's all I had. I'm not going late, even though well, I went 15 minutes longer than I thought I would. But I love you. God bless you. I'm going to bed. I'll try to come on tomorrow night. We'll see. Let's see how things shake up. But stay strong, stay vigilant, and pray and keep kicking that ass. Fight the good fight, you guys. I love every one of you, and we will talk soon. So with that, me, eh, out, out.